Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're doing a deep dive into some IELTS vocab, kicking things up a notch, for the speaking test specifically.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah. It's all based on this article I found, 10 common words to avoid in IELTS speaking. And look, it even tells you what to say instead.
This sounds promising. I mean, I'm sure we all use these common words, right?
Oh, absolutely. Like way more than we realize. But the thing is, on the IELTS, the examiner wants to hear you using more, I don't know, sophisticated language, not just the basics. So this article is kind of like a cheat sheet.
Yeah, like a quick win for boosting that vocabulary score, right?
Exactly. So first up is the word good.
Good.
Yeah, like I use good for practically everything. What's so bad about saying good? It's, positive, right?
Well, it's not that good is wrong.
Okay.
It's just think about what the examiner's listening for.
Okay, yeah.
They want to hear a range of vocabulary. Like, they want to know you can express those subtle differences in meaning. So instead of the weather is good, maybe you say the weather is pleasant or favorable, even delightful, depending on what you're going for.
I see. So it's more about like showing off a bit. Like, look how many words I know.
Kind of. It's about showing you can use the right word for the right situation, which is, a big part of language.
Right. So instead of I had a good time, it's like I had a fantastic time. The music was lively. The people were fascinating.
Exactly. You're painting a picture, not just stating a fact.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, what's next?
Next up, we've got bad. And I bet you can already guess why this one's on the list.
Well, if good is too vague, I guess bad is kind of the same, right? Doesn't really give you much information.
Exactly. Like, are you talking about something unpleasant, disappointing, maybe even outrageous? Each of those has a different vibe.
Ooh, yeah, I see what you mean.
So think about the specific aspect you want to highlight, right?
Yeah. Like instead of the traffic was bad, it's the traffic was horrendous. I was stuck for an hour.
There you go. Now you're really conveying the intensity of that situation.
All right, next on the topping block. Nice.
Oh, nice.
I am so guilty of using this word like it's my go-to. But what's the issue with nice? It seems pretty harmless.
Too general, right. It's like the word thing doesn't really tell you much. The article suggests using, charming, agreeable, or even elegant.
Ooh, elegant. I like that one.
It all depends what you're describing, of course.
So not she's a nice person, but she's remarkably compassionate and considerate.
Wow, that does sound more impressive, huh?
You've gone beyond a simple description. You're giving specific qualities.
Right. Okay, nice is officially banished. What's next?
All right, we're getting into the word pairs now. Big and small are up.
Oh, I can see where this is going. Too basic, right.
Oh, wow.
Like, you got to be more specific.
Exactly. So instead of big, we've got immense, substantial, maybe even colossal if you're feeling dramatic.
Ooh, colossal. Love it.
And for small, think tiny, compact, or even minuscule. Minuscule. Okay, I need to use that word. That is going in my vocabulary bank right now.
That's a good one.
Okay, so there's a big problem, but there's a significant issue requiring immediate attention.
Much more impactful, right?
Oh, absolutely. Okay, what's next?
We've got happy and sad.
Ooh, okay, this seems a bit trickier. How do you even avoid saying happy or sad? Those are like core emotions.
It's not about avoiding them. It's about going deeper. Like, instead of just happy, are you content, cheerful, maybe even elated?
Okay, yeah, I see what you mean. So not I was happy to hear the news. It's I was absolutely thrilled. I couldn't stop smiling.
Perfect. And same goes for sad. Instead of just stating it, you could say, I was heartbroken. I felt a profound sense of loss.
Yeah, that definitely adds more depth. Okay, so we're not just labeling the emotion, we're like describing the experience of it.
Exactly. Show the examiner you can express yourself in a nuanced way.
Right. What else do we have?
This next one might surprise you. It's the word thing.
Thing. Seriously. But thing is like the most useful word ever. What's wrong with thing?
It's vague. It doesn't give you any specific information. Remember, clarity is key.
Okay. So instead of the thing I like most about my job, it's what I appreciate most about my job is.
Yeah, and then you'd say the actual thing you appreciate.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No more thing. Got it. What else?
Okay, this one's another word that we overuse a lot. It's a lot.
Oh, yeah. A lot is definitely a crutch word for me. I use it way too much. What are we supposed to say instead?
Be specific. Instead of, I read a lot, try, I'm an avid reader and make time to read several books each month.
Okay, wow, that sounds way better.
It paints a clearer picture, right? You're giving details.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, we're down to the last word. And I think I know what it is. Is it very?
You got it. Very. is like the ultimate overused word.
Yeah.
And it's not wrong, it's just there's almost always a better option.
Oh, tell me about it. Very is my verbal crutch. I vary everything. But how do you even break a habit like that?
Be mindful. Catch yourself when you say it and think, is there a stronger word I could use here? Like instead of very tired, it's exhausted.
Ooh, exhausted, yes. I can feel the difference already. Much more impactful.
And instead of very important, try crucial or essential.
Okay, this is seriously eye-opening. Like, I never realized how much I rely on these simple words.
We all do. But being aware of it is the first step.
Yeah, for sure. I'm feeling way more confident about this IELTS thing already, just from swapping out a few words.
It's amazing what a difference it can make, right?
Yeah.
And it's not just for the IELTS either.
Oh, true. Like, this could help in everyday conversations too, right? Sound more professional, more persuasive, maybe even.
Absolutely. But hey, we've covered a lot of ground already.
Yeah, we have.
Before we move on, anything that really stood out to you from this list of words?
I think, honestly, just how often I use those simple words, like, I had no idea. But seeing how much better the alternatives sound, I don't know, it makes me want to step up my game.
I love that. It's a simple shift, but it can make a world of difference.
Totally. But is it really just about swapping out words? Like, are there other things we can do to boost our vocabulary beyond this list?
That's a great question. And that, my friend, is something we're going to dive into in the next part of our deep dive.
Ooh, cliffhanger. All right, I'm hooked. Can't wait to hear more.
Stay tuned.
All right, so we've ditched those common words, but how do we actually, like, build a better vocabulary? Where do we even start?
Well, one of the simplest ways, honestly, is to just read, like a lot.
Read. Okay.
And not just, scrolling through social media. I mean, dive into books, articles, anything that's well written.
Okay, so like proper reading. Got it.
Exactly. And you'll start absorbing all those new words without even realizing it.
Right, but what about when you come across a word you've never seen before? I'll admit, I usually just skip over those.
Oh, don't do that. Look it up.
Yeah.
Like, actually take the time to understand what it means.
Okay, yeah.
See how it's used in a sentence. Maybe even try using it yourself.
That's a good point. Like, make it your own.
Exactly. It's like adding new tools to your language toolbox, right?
I like that analogy. But even when I do look up words, I kind of forget them after a while. How do you, like, make them stick?
Repetition. Use the word a few times, write it down, maybe even make a flashcard.
Flashcards, old school.
Hey, they work, but the best way to remember is to actually use the word, in conversation, in your writing.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Okay, what about this? Sometimes I know a lot of words, but they sound kind of awkward when I try to use them. Like they don't flow naturally. Any tips?
This is where collocations come in.
Collocations. Okay. What are those again?
They're basically word combinations that, like, naturally go together, like strong coffee or heavy rain.
Oh, right. So it's not just about knowing individual words. It's about knowing how to put them together.
Exactly. Using the right collocations makes you sound more fluent, more natural.
Okay, so instead of I did a big mistake, it's I made a huge mistake.
Perfect, Nancy. Huge mistake. Just sounds right,
Yeah, it does. It's like you wouldn't say I made a large mistake, even though large and huge kind of mean the same thing.
Exactly. So pay attention to collocations when you're reading, watching movies, even listening to music.
Wow, I never really thought about it like that. So many things to consider.
And here's another one. Record yourself speaking.
Oh, I hate listening to myself. But, okay, I get what you mean. It's like you can hear what you actually sound like, not just what you think you sound like.
Exactly. And you might be surprised by what you notice. Maybe you use certain words too much or your pronunciation isn't as clear as you thought.
Yeah, it's a good reality check. Okay, I'm adding that to my to-do list. Record myself being all eloquent.
And remember, practice with a partner, too. Someone who can give you feedback, suggest new words.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay, so we've got reading, flashcards, collocations, recording ourselves. It's like a whole vocabulary workout plan.
It is, but it's worth it. The more you work on it, the more confident you'll feel, both in the IELTS and just in general.
Absolutely. This has been super helpful, honestly. I'm feeling way less stressed about this IELTS thing.
I'm glad to hear that. But before we wrap up, anything else we should keep in mind specifically for the IELTS speaking test?
Ooh, good question. Like, are there certain things we should avoid saying, even if they're not on that list of common words?
That's a great point. And that, my friend, is something we'll dive into in the final part of our deep dive. Stay tuned.
So we've talked about, like, avoiding common words and actually, like, building our vocabulary. But Are there any specific traps we should be aware of during the actual IELTS speaking test itself? Like, are there certain types of language we should be careful about using?
That's a great point. And one area that often trips people up is the use of idioms.
Ah, idioms, those expressions that don't always mean what they literally say.
Exactly like raining cats and dogs. It's not literally raining animals, is it?
Right, haha. No, it's just like a really heavy downpour.
Exactly. And idioms can be tricky because they're so culturally specific. What might be a common idiom in one language could sound completely baffling in another.
Oh, yeah, that's true. And using them incorrectly can make you sound unnatural or even just like confuse the examiner.
Exactly. So should we avoid idioms altogether on the IELTS?
Yeah, I mean, it seems safer to just stick with straightforward language.
Not necessarily used appropriately. Idioms can add color and personality to your language.
Oh, so they're not all bad.
Not at all. They can make you sound more fluent and demonstrate a deeper understanding of the nuances of English, but the key is to use them sparingly and only if you're confident about their meaning and context.
That makes sense. It's like with any vocabulary word, you don't want to just throw it in there to sound fancy.
Exactly. It needs to fit naturally within the conversation.
Right, right. So if you're ever unsure about an idiom, it's always best to err on the side of caution and choose a simpler alternative, right?
Exactly. Clarity is crucial in the IELTS speaking test.
Okay, good advice. Now, what about slang? Should we be using slang in the IELTS speaking test?
Generally speaking, it's best to avoid slang in formal settings like the IELTS exam.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Slang is very informal and can sound out of place in an academic context.
Right. It's not really the right vibe.
Exactly. Remember, the examiner is assessing your ability to communicate in a variety of situations, and that includes being able to adapt your language to different levels of formality.
So sticking to more formal language is definitely the way to go for the IELTS. This has been such an eye-opening deep dive. I feel so much more prepared to tackle the IELTS speaking test with confidence.
I'm thrilled to hear that. Remember, the key takeaway here is that even small tweaks to your vocabulary can make a big difference in how you're perceived.
For sure.
And the best way to improve is to practice, practice, practice.
Right. Practice makes perfect.
The more you work on expanding your vocabulary and using it effectively, the more natural and confident you'll sound.
Absolutely. To all our listeners out there prepping for the IELTS, go out there and wow those examiners with your newfound vocabulary skills. And even if you're not taking the IELTS, remember, these tips can help you sound more articulate and persuasive in any situation.
Well said. It's all about becoming a more effective communicator. And as you continue on your language learning journey, here's a final thought to consider. We focused on English and the IELTS today, but do these same principles apply to other languages? How can we identify and avoid common pitfalls in other languages to sound more fluent and sophisticated? It's a fascinating question to ponder as you continue expanding your linguistic horizons.